Now welcome to part 2. Protests, rebellions, the world, and all other such international affairs. From Croydon to Cairo, things have been going up in flames as protesters or rioters take to the streets in varying shades of anger and often quite a lot of burning going on. This has all started, of course, in January with the Arab Spring, particularly in Tunisia, Libya and Egypt. It's all been quite interesting, although also quite worrying, looking at all the things that have been happening on the ground. Particularly interesting the way that Egypt early on appears to be sort of the great popular uprising which bloodlessly brings down the ruler, whereas Libya, which was this bloody quagmire for many months, actually by now appears to be doing rather better, whereas whilst the attentions of the world were diverted the other way, things in Egypt have rather stalled. Russia has also been undergoing similar waves of protest, from Vladimir Putin being booed at a boxing match where the explanation was that they needed to go to the toilet. Things have now gotten to the fact where apparently tens of thousands of Russians across the country all simultaneously need to go to the loo in the centre of every major city. It's quite impressive, really. I think the key thing with many of the Arab world dictators is that they simply weren't taking their lessons from the right people. They were all doing exactly the same thing in a very authoritarian manner, which, as I said, has been slightly annoying people. Whereas, actually, there are some people out there who do know how to run an authoritarian regime. I look, of course, to Qatar, one of the unsung major players of the year, from putting special forces into the invasion of Tripoli, through funding so many other projects, to possibly using a little light-fingered monetary aid to get the World Cup to their country. Now, the interesting thing about Qatar, when you look at the country itself, is that the Qataris are mostly happy with not being democratic, because they're mostly quite happy, on the grounds that they don't particularly have much that they want. I mean, the incredible thing is that social security in Western countries has come through years and long toil of, popular movements and the Labour Party and the rise of trade unionism and so on to move towards this system. Social security in Qatar has come about simply by extending the system of bribing people for everything until you're repeatedly bribing every single person in the country to be nice. And it's bizarre that it works, but it is absolutely the model of how one should run authoritarian regimes. On the other hand, possibly fortunately for democracy in the world, many other people haven't quite twigged this yet. Of course, protests aren't only a thing of the Arab world. Many cities across Europe and America and even Asia have had their centres occupied by the Occupy movement, as it is so very imaginatively named. The movement is quite interesting in that it is often said to be this anti-capitalist movement. Nobody actually quite seems to, have twigged what they're actually going on about. I'm not even sure I know myself. But I think the important kind of key factor of it is how much of it is just an uprising of generic anger at the fact that probably, certainly in many Western countries, we now have a very extreme wealth gap. The other interesting factor about the Occupy protests, of course, is the way that Anonymous has suddenly moved from being the scary hackers of the internet to this sort of large, real-world movement. I find there is something about Anonymous which I always find quite ironic, and that is that, firstly, it is the way that nerds have made themselves scary to politicians has not been mostly seemingly due to their sort of technical skills or abilities. It's due to their abilities to appear in strange masks or something. I also find the entire thing quite ironic, the fact that a movement dedicated to a sort of anarchist, open information view of the world has chosen as its key symbol a 17th century religious fanatic and terrorist who wanted to blow up sort of what wasn't quite then but was becoming one of the key democratic institutions of the country. So that's a quick roundup of the protests and rebellions. As we move into 2012, there are still struggles going on in Egypt, in Syria, in Russia. There are still occupiers in London, across many other parts of the world. 2012 could even be just as interesting a year as 2011.